Welcome to Brainish English Stories.
Nettie was a smart, fair-skinned girl who was 15 years old. She was tall and moved gracefully. She was very determined for her age. She was standing on the train platform at Euston Square, watching the Manchester train leave. She could see part of the train with a head, an arm, and a cap moving around wildly. Tom, her brother, was 2 years older than her. He was going back to school for his last term. He had big, but unclear, ideas about what he wanted to be when he finished school and grew up. Most of our friends, he had said proudly, standing next to Nettie on the platform a little while before, go into the Army or Navy and become admirals or generals or something like that. Then he had said, without being very clear, that his own job would be the best of all jobs, even if he only did one thing. But Tom soon stopped talking about these high ideas and talked about simpler things. His last words were about a new cricket bat that Nettie should ask their father to buy for him, a new puppy that she should take care of, and letters they should write to each other, where she shouldn't talk too much about the kids at home. Nettie sighed as she walked home. She wiped a tear from her cheek. Poor Nettie, she also had dreams and confused thoughts about what she wanted to be. She had talked to her brother Tom about this during the holidays, but he had not given her much support. At that moment, she felt like the world was made for boys and she was only a girl. "What will you be?" Tom had asked her during one of their private talks. "You? Well, you will stay with Mom, of course." "Yes, but girls do all kinds of things now, Tom," she replied. "Some are doctors, some are writers, some are bookworms," answered Tom rudely. "Don't be silly, Net," he added in a condescending way. "You'll stay with Mom and Dad, and one day you will marry some guy, or you can take care of my house. And then, when I am not with my ship or my army group, I will be with you." Poor Nettie. She had a feeling that life should offer her something more heroic than just taking care of her brother's house. Determined not to settle for a boring life, she surprised her parents one evening with a sudden and unexpected question. "Father, what will I become?" "Become?" her father repeated, pulling her onto his lap. "Just continue being my good daughter, Nettie." "Are you tired of that, dear?" No. Nettie wasn't tired of her father's love. She wanted to be wiser and more useful, so she hugged her father warmly and treated her mother the same way to avoid any jealousy. Then, sitting in an armchair as if commanding attention, she returned to the main topic. "You know, Father, there's Minnie Roberts, right?" "What about her?" her father replied. "Well, she's going to university, Dad." "I didn't know that." "Yes, she is. Then she'll become a doctor or a teacher or something." "That's what I want to be." Mr. Anderson looked surprised as he glanced between his wife and daughter. He was fair-minded, and recently, he and his wife had discussed plans to help Tom succeed. It hadn't occurred to him that Nettie needed anything special. He had thought she would continue at high school for another year and then settle into being her mother's companion. Trying not to be too harsh, he hesitated. "Well, little girl," he said, "keep working hard, and we'll talk about it later." Nettie felt triumphant. She had expected resistance, thinking her father would remind her of Tom's costly education. She felt like she had already won the argument. Nettie worked hard at school, staying cheerful and not neglecting her usual chores at home. She dusted the living room and comforted little Dorothy when she was upset, just as she always did. Mrs. Anderson began to say more often how nice it would be when Nettie came home for good. "You can see she's forgotten about wanting a career," Mrs. Anderson said. "I'm glad. She brings light to our home." Forgotten? Not at all. They would soon realize. The term ended and Tom was expected home the next day, Saturday. In the afternoon, Nettie came home from school, her face glowing with excitement. She couldn't speak for a moment, so her mother stopped her work and wondered if Nettie had found a lot of money. Then Nettie made her announcement. "Mother, I've won a scholarship." "You did?" "Yes, Mom. I'm the Queen Victoria Scholar." Nettie stood up proudly. "And what does that mean for you?" "Well, I can keep studying for my job for 3 years, and Dad won't have to pay anything." "What job, dear?" "I'm not sure yet, Mom. But I want to be a doctor." "A what?" "A doctor, Mom. Minnie Roberts is studying to be a doctor, and I think it's great." "What? Cutting people open with a knife?" "Yes, Mom, if it helps them." "But, my dear." However, Nettie didn't know much about being a doctor. She only knew that Minnie Roberts worked independently, studied hard, and seemed very lively and smart. So, they put off talking about it in detail and focused on congratulations, questions, and guesses. What will Tom say? Nettie kept asking herself, unable to answer. What Tom actually said will be explained when Mr. Anderson and Nettie meet him at the station. They were both excited, as Mr. Anderson felt somewhat guilty about Nettie's career question. He had thought she was just dreaming, but she took his encouragement seriously and worked hard at school. Tom hugged Nettie and shook hands with his father. Then, standing by his bags, Nettie told him, "Tom, I've won a scholarship." "Sennacherib," Tom exclaimed, not exactly on topic, but those who knew him would understand how moved he was. Nettie knew. She felt a bit sorry for telling Tom, as he had done poorly in school this term, disappointing their father. Nettie was sure he felt the contrast with her success. They talked about other things on the way home. Once Tom kissed his mother, Dorothy, and Joe, Nettie suggested, "Shall we go get the puppy now? He's really cute." "You're amazing, Net, for thinking of that," said Tom. "Yes, let's go." These holidays were very fun for Nettie and Tom. Tom treated Nettie equally, not looking down on her or other girls. Maybe Nettie's success and Tom's struggles made him more humble. Nettie believed her happiness contributed to her success, and she was right. Some people think everyone needs tough times to be their best, but that's not true. Some people thrive on happiness, especially when young, and Nettie was one of them. She enjoyed success, achieving her goals, and being healthy and strong to face life's challenges cheerfully. Nettie started dreaming big for Tom. She hoped he would go to Sandhurst, do well, and get a commission in a good regiment. Tom's respect for women grew, especially after hearing about a boy who bullied his sisters into doing things for him. Tom thought that was wrong and changed his mind about such behavior. The holidays eventually ended, secretly delighting Nettie. She hated saying goodbye to Tom, but looked forward to returning to her work. 6 years passed, and Nettie's career was a series of successes. She went to Newnham and did well in her exams. Only one thing troubled her: Tom didn't succeed. Despite coaching, he didn't pass at Sandhurst, and the doctor advised him to stop studying for now. Nettie wrote to Tom often, downplaying his failure and encouraging him to keep going. Now, Nettie was starting her career as a doctor. Soon, she would be Nettie Anderson, MD, practicing with her older friend, Minnie Roberts. Some newspapers even wrote about them, noting it was the first time 2 female medical graduates in England were partnering in practice. Miss Roberts already had many clients in Bloomsbury. One Saturday afternoon in October, they held a special dinner to celebrate. Nettie had her own apartment in the house where they all gathered. Mr. and Mrs. Anderson, Tom, and the 2 doctors were proud of Nettie, almost forgetting Tom's struggles. They had a wonderful time. Nettie was cheerful and Tom was polite and kind. Sometimes, learning from failures is the best way to grow. Time passed quickly, and soon Nettie and her mother had to go back home. "Someday, you'll get married, Nettie," her mother said. "We'll see, Mom," Nettie replied. "But if I do, it will be because I want to, not because I have to."